Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to do is talk about a new, it's not a new technique, but it's a new technique to me, currying. So if you've been watching my videos, you'll notice that in the Lodash series of videos, there was a function called curry that would curry a function, and which basically meant that it broke up its parameters into separate functions, and we'll do some examples in a moment. And I was kind of really confused by why would you ever do this. So I did some digging because I like to understand things, and now I get it. I see why currying is useful. Okay, because on its face it seems kind of odd. So first, let's just kind of give you an example of what it is. Okay, so let's say I had an argument that does this, or a function const myfunc equals, and there's three arguments, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then a console.logs 1, console.logs 2, and then console.logs 3. Okay, now if I then run that function, myfunc 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 node function. See, it console logs 1, 2, and 3. That's cool. So to curry this function, so that means I'm going to, instead of having all the parameters passed in at one time, I'm going to pass them into separate functions. So the way this would work is I'd get rid of this, so it's just 1. And then this would return another function, 2, that console.logs 2. And then that'll return another function that takes in 3. And then console.logs. Oh wait, no, it's just taken. Yep, that's fine. Return 3, which then console.logs 3, and then that one will just return a boolean. We'll say. Or we'll say 1, 2, 3, and then it'll return the string off to the races. Okay. So notice, basically it's a bunch of functions returning other functions. But now what I would do is instead of passing in 1, 2, and 3 into one function, I'd pass in 1. That's going to return another function, which I can then just immediately call with 2. And then that's going to return a function which I can immediately call with 3. And now it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, off to the races. Well, that's assuming I console log the output, but I'm not going to, so don't worry about it. So let's just say 1, 2, 3 in this situation. Okay, and it's like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just keep all the parameters into one thing? Well, the benefit of this is I don't have to do all 3 parts of this function right away. I could if I wanted to. Okay, but what I can also do is do something like this. Okay, so myfunc. So basically, what I do is I instead store the resulting. So we'll call this 1. Const 1 will equal the result of myfunc1, which is the second function. So that'll run the first function and store the second one here. But then I can be like console.log or something like this. Yeah, console.log on your marks. Const2 is going to equal. Now we're going to run that one function that we got from the first time we ran it and run it with a 2 parameter. So that way it'll console log 2. Console.log on your marks. Get ready. And then we'll do the third function, const 3 equals 2, passing in 3, so basically the same thing. 1, 2, 3. On your marks, get ready, and then we'll just console.log the result, which is off to the races, so 3. So now it should be like 1, on your marks, 2, get ready, 3, off to the races. See, 1 on your mark. So what I'm able to do is I could run 1, 2, 3 immediately, but I could also break it up. Okay, and this could be really useful in lots of situations where you have a process that has to, maybe you're constructing an object, like let's say a car, and there's an assembly line. So the first part of the assembly line puts on the wheels. So, and you may need input or output from somewhere else. So you don't necessarily want to do everything right away, but you want to do it as you go. Okay, so that's kind of what this process would do. Okay, so to give you sort of a different scenario, although this pretty much illustrates the concept. Let's do const build, const hero is the name of the function. Okay, and this, or what it originally does is takes a name, let's just move this over here. Okay, so const hero name, it is going to create an object, const, slot I gotta fix there, const the hero equals name, and their level is 1. Okay. And then what this function returns is we're going to return a function. In this case, we would pass in powers. So we would pass in like spells. And what this function does is it's going to add those spells to the character. So basically what happens is the hero const, well, const updated hero equals, and then technically the hero is still in scope because it's a sub function. So in that case I can do the hero, we'll spread the hero in there, and we will spread spells in there. And then we're going to return another function with stats, and that's going to take updated hero. We'll just call this final hero, and we'll return final hero. Return. Okay, so we don't even have to call this final hero, we can just return the object. Return updated hero combined with stats. Okay, so let's save that so that way it just pretties up a little bit. Boop. Okay, so essentially what we're doing here is we're taking the process of creating a character and breaking it up into 3 steps. So if you've played a lot of video games, you might see like there's like 3 screens sometimes. You first you design the basics of your character, then you're going to set their stats up, and then you choose like special abilities and whatnot. Well, this kind of simulates that, and instead of waiting till the end and you have all this information and plugging it into one function, you can run the function as you go along. So maybe first, okay, we'll say const part 1 will equal, first we'll do is we'll run my hero, and we're going to call him me, Alex. Okay, so the object, so basically that's the first part, but then we have to actually pass in spells. So const part1, oh actually const part2 equals part1, because again the function that this returns is stored in the here, so now I have a function in part1, and that gets passed in spells. So we'll just say, you know, spell called fireball. Fireball. So that gets passed in. Okay, that's going to return a function. So const part3 is going to equal the function that we got from part2. But now it's asking us for stats, so we'll say, so we're passing in an object, strength 10, defense 10, intelligence 10. Okay, so there's our stats object, and that's going to get mixed in. And then that returns the actual hero to part 3. So let's actually call this final hero. And then let's console log the resulting hero. Save. And there you go. So we constructed this object over several functions. And again, there could have been all this stuff in the middle of it. So imagine, like, at first there's like it asks you for input and says, hey, you know, what's the name? And then asks you all these other questions, and then based on those other questions, it does the second function. Then asks you some more questions, and then based on that, it does the third function. So that's currying. You're just chopping up your process into functions, and the way you make sure it happens in order is that the first function returns the second function, which returns the third function, and you're passing in the parameters each step of the way, instead of having to create one function that does everything at one time. So yeah, that's kind of a neat technique. I like it. So have a great day and enjoy. I'll see you guys later on.